I would do without it because I actually write songs outside of school and stuff, and I never took piano lessons, and I've never taken hardcore like music lessons, and when I came into this program, I learned a lot about music and the proper way to sing, and learned certain notes and stuff and a lot of techniques, and it's just helped me overall, like on my side hobby, that I love music, and it just keeps me so involved. And in my other classes, I just look so forward to going to my music classes, going to theater, and it really helps me keep focused just throughout all my schoolwork. So it's a big deal for me.
Yeah, so like you heard, Ajante took first place in everything, and we took first place in our women's division, and we got invited next year to go to Carnegie Hall for a Festival of Gold. So we're super proud of that, and I just really love Ajante and this choir program because it gives people a group to be a part of, and it makes them feel special. And I think that's really cool because I love to be around people, and I love to like just share their emotions and just be really happy with them. And I think that that's really cool that somebody can be a part of something and learn and grow and create a wonderful project or a song or something to present to somebody. And I think that's really awesome that every single person feels important. And Miss TB always says we're only as strong as our weakest singer. So everybody feels super important as much as we do as being the president. So I really appreciate our choir department.
Just one thing that I wanted to add, while we were on stage doing singing for our 3 adjudicators, we all just, again, we just bonded even stronger than we have this past couple months at school. And one of the most amazing just comments and feedback I got from the adjudicators this year was just from our performance and our singing alone, they could tell that we had such a deep appreciation for both our director and our program. And that, again, just from our singing alone, you can tell that we had such a passion for what we were doing, and that, like, we really enjoy it. And I just think that was so important for just everyone in our choir and just anyone who's watching us to hear, because it is true. Everyone in this department just has such a huge passion for what we do, and we do really respect our director because she's one of the most amazing directors I've ever seen and ever been directed by. And so I just wanted to let you guys know how much we really appreciate what you guys allow us to do, and just how much we love what we do. So.
Thank you very much. Susan Zink.
Board members, my name is Susan Beasley Zink, and I was born here in Santa Barbara. I'm a product of Marge Luke's theater program at Santa Barbara Junior High, and I'm a product of Phyllis Zimmerman's renowned choral department at Santa Barbara High School. I'm now a teacher in the Goleta district, singing in my classroom daily, having put on multiple musicals in past years. My own children are now a product of Shannon Sala's theater and choir program at La Colina, and are actively participating in the theater and choral programs at San Marcos High School under the direction of David Holmes and Carolyn Taraoka Brady. My life was shaped and enriched by my musical experiences as a Santa Barbara student, and now my children's lives are being shaped and enriched by Santa Barbara School District music and theater teachers who are helping to grow my children into confident, sensitive, talented, well-rounded leaders for the future. My daughter, with the San Marcos High School Madrigal Singers, just returned from a trip to New York City, having received highest honors at the festival. It wasn't just about winning, but more about the bond that was created for the common goal that the group strives for each year. They become a family, creating memories and skills that will last a lifetime. I want to thank you for providing and allowing this experience for the Madrigals. Their love of music also spills from the classroom experience into the world as my husband and I drove 4 singers from San Marcos who auditioned and made All-State Honor Choir, which performed in Sacramento this last weekend after an intense 3 days of rehearsals. The students did this because they love to sing, and Carolyn Tara Oka Brady is instilling in them this desire to be the best and not wallow in the muck of mediocrity, to quote Phyllis Zimmerman. She also used to say that music is love that has found expression. We need the arts in our schools. It is equally as valuable as any curriculum in our schools. Please consider this as you weigh your decisions on our current budget, and thank you for your support of the arts. May it continue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I believe that was our last public comment.
Well, thank you very much. We congratulate all of you for all of your hard work, your teachers and directors, and also your parents, who I'm sure spend lots of hours supporting you, and without whom I'm sure it would be much more difficult to accomplish what you do. So you make our district very proud, and I would like you to know that at this time, we are not contemplating any cuts to the music and arts programs. However, we don't know what the situation is going to be, so we can never be absolutely certain what the ultimate results will be. But I just want to assure you that at this time, that is not in our plans. Okay, well, thank you very much for coming, and feel free to leave if you would like to. We don't expect you to stay for the entire meeting.
Oh, and feel free to come back and sing to us sometime,
Yes.
too.
Yes, next time we want to hear some of this. Okay, so that brings us to our main item on the agenda, the discussion and approval of leadership profile and finalization of criteria in the superintendent search. So we have all received the packet from HYA outlining the meetings and surveys that were conducted over a period of several days. And Ms. McKinnon, was it your intention to walk us through this at this time?
We'd like to walk you through.
Okay, great, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. A tough act to follow. Oh, my goodness, congratulations. Well, we want to thank you for the opportunity to assist you in this process in helping you find a new superintendent. And we want to thank you for the time and the effort that individuals, is it on?
Let's see. Oh, okay, it sounds like it's on now.
Thank you. We want to thank you, appreciate the time and energy and effort that those of you who participated in the interview process, board members as well as members of the community, they really took an interest. They were appreciative of being asked, and I think the results of the survey show that your constituents got something out of the process. We also think they appreciated being heard. It's important that people be able to express their opinions. And before we go much further, we also want to express our appreciation for some members of your staff. I want to thank Susan Deacon for being our editor. She was invaluable in terms of helping us with the report, going back and forth and making it so it looks like a fine product. A special thanks goes to Mimi. Where is she? Well, she's not here, but if she were, she should know how much we appreciated from the outset. She did everything we asked and more. She monitors, she adjusts, she follows up, she checks it out. She was ever accessible and always such a pleasant person to work with. It's very nice to be able to ask someone to come in, create more for you to do, walk in, give you responsibilities, walk out. She was just, she represents the district very well, and I know you probably already know that. So tonight what we want to do is share with you a little bit of the profile and give you some ideas about what we learned about the district. We want to remind you of the purpose of this process and what we're all about, in addition to assisting you in determining the characteristics for the new superintendent. There are some other uses for the report, and we actually, it will help us with candidates. And when we're complete and you have signed off, we'd like to be able to place a portion of the report on our website, that criteria portion, so that we can assist candidates in determining if they're a match for Santa Barbara. It will assist us in screening for the slate. We're going to come back to you later in May and bring a slate of candidates, and it'll assist us in that process. We hope it helps you develop questions for the interviews that you're going to be doing in a few short weeks. And we also think it will provide a lot of information for the new superintendent. When he or she reports, they'll come with a lot of information about the district and the things that we've learned. So Dr. Castrito wants to talk to you about the executive summary and some of the themes throughout the process.
I don't know, can you hear me okay without the mic?
I'm sorry, Dr. Castrito, we need the mic for the video.
Sounds fine. First and foremost, I want to thank you for allowing us to come into your district. Santa Barbara is one of these really unique communities that you'll find that many people want to come to. We are not going to have a problem recruiting top quality candidates to this district. Just in the short time since I've been here, maybe a couple weeks ago, we've already had numerous conversations with people about Santa Barbara, and guess what the first question they ask? What is the board like? Okay, so they really have a real perspective on the unique characteristics of Santa Barbara. I think you'll find that we'll bring some real quality candidates for you. Our goal, as it always has been, is to make that decision really difficult for you because you'll have quality people to choose from. So that's our goal, to bring people to you in that respect. The 2 days we spent here were on March 14th and 15th, and we went into the evening and met with some wonderful community members at one of your fabulous auditoriums at one of your high schools, at San Marcos High School. And that was really a neat opportunity for us to really get a feel for your community. And I need to say that your community is not shy about speaking up what their beliefs, the strengths are, and the challenges of the district, and what they're looking for in the next superintendent. So my portion of this report is going to be to inform you of some of the responses from the folks that we spoke to. But I also want to make sure that you understand this is not a criticism from our perspective. These are just responses of what the strengths the people perceive, the stakeholders of your district, what the challenges are that they believe are going to be facing the new superintendent and the board in the next 3 to 5 years, and what kind of characteristics they're looking for. So that is the basis for this. It's not a scientific study, but you have all the responses. You've been able to look at them, and I want to go over the executive summary. And what we'll do is go through our portion. If you have any questions at any time, please feel free to interrupt us, and we will be able to clarify some issues for you, or you can wait till we're finished, and then we'll have a mutual discussion about what this means. From my experience in doing this for many years, as Dr. McKinnon said, most quality superintendents will look at this report and be able to look at it and determine whether they have the qualifications that meet your expectations and the community's expectations to come to Santa Barbara. You will have a self-selection of candidates because they will see the challenges that are at hand, some of the nuances that have been expressed by the community and the board, and they will determine whether they have the qualities and the skills that will meet your desires to come here and be your next leader here in Santa Barbara. So with that said, if you have the copy right in front of you, but you'll notice that on the first page, you'll see the focus group participants, and there's the numbers that we looked at from the administrative group, the board, the community, faculty, staff, parents, students, and a total number. And you'll also see the online surveys and the numbers that participated there. And that's what this report is made of. So with that said, I would like to now go through the report with you and identify in the executive summary. Mr. Herron, you had a question?
Yes, Mr. Herron?
Curious, the numbers on this chart, in your experience, is this a normal number, abnormal numbers? How does our response both from focus group and online compare to other searches you've done similar in nature?
Very comparable for the size of district you have. We normally will see a little bit more faculty participation, to be honest with you, with the Survey Monkey that we sent out and the online survey, but all the other numbers really are pretty comparable for the size of your district, and that gives us a pretty good range. What's really unique about this, Mr. Herron, you're going to see some real, and members of the board, you're going to see some real consistent responses throughout this report, which I would really encourage this board and the next superintendent to really take a look at, because that'll be your roadmap to moving this district forward with academic achievement, with communication, with providing stakeholders opportunities to engage. So you'll see some consistent responses, and Dr. McKenna will go over that survey with you, that you'll see some things that are pretty consistent for you. So a short answer for you is it's pretty common, pretty normal numbers that we see here. Okay, some of the strengths, there's many strengths that were advocated by the people we spoke to. They really believe one of the strong strengths that you have here in Santa Barbara are the teachers, the administrators, the support staff that strive to meet the needs of all the children in this district. But one thing that really was loud and clear to us is the community involvement. And that's something that you don't see in many districts. The community involvement is something they see as really a strength of this district, and how you harness that is going to be able to move you forward. The support for schools from the community was really prevalent in our discussions, especially from the parent group that we met with that evening. It was very important. Of course, the strength they see is the passage of the bond measure and the parcel tax, and you should be proud of that effort, because that is not the norm. For districts to say, yes, we believe in our educational system, we want to contribute to that by raising our taxes. So kudos to Santa Barbara and the people that have seen that that's a real strong strength. The foundations, the partnerships, the community agencies that you have in this district are what superintendents that are looking for a great district would absolutely love, because of your involvement. The foundations, the people we spoke to that lead your foundations, they are very supportive of this district, so that was really seen as a strength. Also, the unions. We had an opportunity to talk to your union leadership, and they are really wanting to be in concert with the district and working to solve problems before they become bigger problems. And that, again, is an unusual concept in most districts. So I think the work that you've done here with your administration, the board, the relationship, have really laid the groundwork for that union collaboration. And that is really an important component of whoever comes into this district next. I also think that kudos to this board. It was recognized that this board is a strong board. I don't know what strong means, but they say it's a strong board. It's cohesive, and you are all very passionate about serving the needs of the children in this district. And that came out loud and clear from the community and from the administrators and the support staff. So whatever you're doing is being recognized by members of this district, and that's important. Now we get to the challenges. And these challenges are things that are pretty consistent. They're issues that probably need to be addressed in the district. Again, these are perceptions from the people that we interviewed and from the survey instrument, and I'd like to get into some of those issues. The district's ability to meet the needs of the diverse student body and to close the achievement gap. People are concerned about that in this district. They're concerned about the lack and focus of how we're going to get there. There seems to be not a real laser focus that this is our benchmark, this is where we're going, and troops, we're all going to be in this together to get to that point. And I think that's something that came out loud and clear. There's no plan that provides a roadmap that we could find, and that we heard from administrators and teachers that the roadmap or the direction or the measure of how we're going to have achievement in this district is not real clear to everybody in this district. And again, without an action plan, with measures and targets to fulfill, you're not going to get where you want to go for the students in academic achievement in this district. You're also not going to be able to hold people accountable. One of the biggest concerns that we heard is, and you'll see it in the report, is people are kind of doing their own thing at the schools, which it might be a good thing, but there's really no consistent continuity of where we're going and where we're going to end up together. So that came out, and I think that's one of the bigger challenges that you may have to deal with. Again, the lack of systems and organizational structures was clearly articulated. by many people. The protocols are not in place. The process, procedures really need to be redefined and refocused in this district. The perception that some systems of communication are not real clear and sustained, especially when that communication needs to get to the school sites. Somehow or another, that communication is not being driven to where those users are going to need to hear what is happening in the district. A big frustration we heard in various community groups is the frustration that the Latino community feels not engaged and not at the table in making decisions. That's a perception that the community members have. Whether that be true or not, that's something that came out as a real challenge that people in your community here, especially those that speak a language like I do, no pueden hablar nada inglés, they really want to be engaged. They want to be able to help their children through the educational process, and they are not seeing an avenue for them to participate. And so I think that that's something that you may want to look at. Of course, the FCMAT review on special ed was, we probably heard a lot about that at our parent meeting, at the evening meeting, and they just believe that a lot of the things that FCMAT report have not been implemented. And we've had a chance to look at the FCMAT report, and it's huge. So I think you're working towards that. I need to share with you, I was really impressed with your special education director. She really has a focus on what needs to be done, and I was really impressed. And she doesn't seem overwhelmed. I'd like to see her husband move to the district so that way you can keep her here, because that's really difficult, that situation. But she is really the right person. She's very highly respected by most parents in this district, and I just needed to share that with you. Not that I'm trying to identify one person or another, but that seemed to be something that came out loud and clear. The desired characteristics that the community and stakeholders are looking for is a person who can articulate a clear vision for the district. Now, you have your mission statement up there, but someone who can really articulate a clear vision of where the board wants to go in educating the youth of Santa Barbara. A characteristic that people believe is needed is an individual who will focus the Board of Education on appropriate roles that you need to play. And you can interpret that any way you want. The interpretation I have is the board needs to understand their role in setting policy and allowing the direction of the district come from the person you hire. So they're hoping that someone will be able to work with that. They'd like to see a communicator, someone who is a communicator not only in the community on various boards, but in the district, in the schools, on the sites. They want to see somebody that can do that. A collaborator, listen to all stakeholders, make he or she available to all the stakeholders in the district. A person who should embrace diversity and have experience in working with diversity. People were saying that would be very helpful. And also recognizing that there's a diverse student population here in Santa Barbara. From Santa Barbara High School to San Marcos, to all the wonderful schools that you have in this district, and there just seems to be someone who can embrace that diversity. The new superintendent, a characteristic, is someone who they hope will be able to build trust. They want someone that is going to be honest with them, someone who will speak the truth and be able to give them what the situation really is. They also believe that whoever comes into this district has got to be politically savvy. They've got to understand the politics not only of the community, but the politics that surround all the different organizations in this district. So that was very important. Someone who's going to be able to engage all sectors of this community, from this side of the freeway to that side of the freeway. That's the way it was explained to me. Okay, so I think you know that the Santa Barbara community and over here, so someone who can engage everybody in that arena. And someone who is accessible and visible and have a good sense of humor. They really would like to have someone that can at least laugh at some of the follow-ups that are going to happen down the road, and that happens in all school districts. I need to tell you that I was really impressed with how open people were with us. I think it was very helpful to allow us to be in separate rooms here, and we committed to them that we would not say that this person said this, so I thought that was very helpful. There was some consistent themes, and you can see them in your report, but I'm going to just point out a couple of them that I think were probably pretty prevalent to me. If you look on page 4 of the report, consistent strengths, appreciation for teachers, administrators, support staff, community involvement and support was consistent. The foundations, the amount of monies that are given to this district by the foundations is phenomenal. And I'm sure you're taking advantage of that, but I think that that's really a strong strength. The challenges, the communication inside the district and from the district to the local school sites and to the community is something that needs to be addressed. The improvement in student achieving, especially among minority students, they really believe that the high achieving students are doing very well in your district, but I think you need to kind of take a look at that. The lack of focus and direction for the district is something that was really I think a challenge that people wanted to address, and the lack of systems and organizations, structures that clearly articulate protocols and how you're going to do business in Santa Barbara. And of course, many Latino parents feel that they're really not at the table. The desired characteristics are really self-evident there. Some people felt, and it's not as a desired characteristic, but I didn't mention it, but maybe a bilingual speaker, someone who can speak their language and who's culturally sensitive. That was also an issue out there. So that's the executive summary. Again, I know you're going to do this, but get it on your website. Have a link that says superintendent search. I interviewed 3 people. I would happen to be in South Carolina at a national conference that I spoke at. And of course, I'm recruiting there. And they're anxious to see what the district is all about. And I said there'll be a website posted and they can take a look and so forth. So I really would encourage you, once you get consensus of this document, to get that on as a link so people can get to that. Okay. Carolyn?
So, now, remember that survey, 41 questions? This is the part that was on your website, and individuals were invited in those 6 subgroups in our case, to
I'm sorry.
forget. Those 6 subgroups that we identified, and each had a link on your website. So what you see now is the surveys, and this comes from those 41 questions. The interest too, and we'll tie this back to some of the interviews, because this is now just the information from the links. So the first chart you see are the overall results. This is from all of the stakeholders. Everybody counts as one. There's no attempt to weight the votes here. If there's 285 in one, there's 285 altogether. There may be 11 or 12 in one group, but they all count the same. So what you see here is across all of the subgroups, vision and values came across as the number 1. And if you remember on that chart, that's the ability to articulate a clear vision for the district, what you need in terms of a continuous improvement. Those are all the kinds of elements that are under that vision and values theme. The one that received the least amount of votes overall had to do with instructional leadership. And while we know that's important, it was ranked the least. And we sometimes can try to speculate why that is, but we'll save that for a moment. If you take a look at the second page, it's page 7 of the charts, you're now looking at the results from the individual groups. And in this particular first group, you had 40 administrators who said they also think vision and values was the most important characteristic that they were looking for. That's the skill set they think they'll need for the next year, the next 5 years. This is interesting in the portrayal because you take a look at the next group, which was the Board of Education, and all 5 of them also ranked vision and values as their highest in terms of priority. The next group was the community. They also ranked vision and values. And Mr. Herron asked a question about how common is this? This is a little uncommon to see this much in terms of each of the groups. When we get to the faculty part of it, the faculty also ranked vision and values as important, but they ranked their number 1 as core knowledge. And remember, core knowledge has to do with understanding the organization, educational leadership, the kinds of emerging trends dealing with personnel. So the faculty and staff saw that as their most, the highest ranked item, but they still saw vision and values as important, and they also saw that community relations coming up. So those two were ranked equally. When we look at parents with children in the school, once again, we had a split here, vision and values, and then we saw those core knowledges coming up again as the second, and those two were equally ranked. When you look at the students, we had 11 students. The students saw community relationships as their first, and remember the community relationship piece has to do with, the one line I like best is it talks about the needs, recognizing the needs of the students. And so when the students were ranking, they want someone who will recognize their needs. What is it you need to deal with the students? And they also saw management as their top ranked item. And management has to do with the day-to-day operations of the district, someone who will be able to deal with the sorts of things that you need to keep the operation running, personnel matters. So the students saw some things a little different, and I think their perspective is important and a bit unique. The last one comes from our Spanish version. This were the responses from our Spanish-speaking parents. And if you note, they also had a split with vision and values. And then the other one they looked at was instructional leadership. And when we talked with the parents and had in our focus groups, they're very concerned about the instructional needs of their children. What are we doing to provide them with a high-quality education? They're looking for an instructional leader, someone who will be academically accountable, and that came across in their comments. If you go back to your the executive summary, tie that with when Rudy talked about the challenges of the district. We heard that they want the district's ability to meet the diverse needs of its students. That's vision and values. When they talk about an action plan with measures and targets, that's vision and values. If you go down through the report and take a look at all of the areas that are mentioned with the focus groups, they tie right back to vision and values. When they talk about a sense of frustration, they want someone who will lead in a participatory manner when you talk about some groups of parents feeling isolated. That's another characteristic of the vision and values part of the report. They're looking for someone who has a clear vision for the district, vision and values. And then when you look further down under the desired characteristics, you see they want a leader who's well-grounded as an instructional leader, and that has to do with that instructional leadership quality. So you might enjoy later on taking the survey, these 41 questions, and linking back to what we heard in the executive summary, because these are two different surveys could be two different groups of people, because not everyone got to take the interview, but it shows that the relationships are there in terms of what people are looking for in terms of your next superintendent. So if you have some time and you want to wander through again, looking at it from that perspective, and then the consistent themes. The other thing that's interesting, on page 10, you see the top 10 questions. We ranked the first 10, you know, the late night talk show fella has his top 10, well, we have our top 10 as well. What's interesting about this, if you take a look at the question number 8, it is a vision and values question, and it is the highest ranked of the questions. And if you go, the next one has to do with community relationships, and while that didn't come out as one of the top consistently, it did come across consistently in the top 10. There is a real support for community relationships and a desire to foster a professional climate. These questions come right off the survey. They're direct. So if you looked at question 18 on the survey, it's question 18 on the top 10. So you can follow through. 3 of the questions that come out in the top 10 are with vision and values, and 3 are community relationships. So another correlation. The next part of the survey is all of the comments that we recorded from individuals in the focus groups and in the individual interviews. These comments come directly from the respondents, not through the electronic survey. And you'll find all of these very interesting. We don't add any priorities. We alphabetize them because there's no priority to it. It's just a way of organizing. And we also don't attempt to do much editing. We present them as close to the way they were given to us. And so while you sometimes would like to try to make sentences. We don't. We just capture the comment, and most of the time we read back to the responders, so we're sure that we've captured what it was they wanted to say to you. So you have numerous pages of comments from all of the focus groups, and this takes a bit of time to put down and organize, but I'm sure you'll enjoy reading that as well. Just a couple of tie-up comments, and then we'll take some more questions. You are already published. If you got your EdCal today, you saw your ad is in there again. We have an Ed Week ad, and we also have the AASA going on. You can place your profile on your website. You can place the whole profile on there, any portion thereof that you want to, and that's another good signal for folks when they click on your website. They'll see they can read the entire executive summary. We'll now, if this is suitable to you, our next step will be to come back with the criteria, which will be lifted from those consistent themes, and we'll place that criteria on our website. You might want to also place it on your website so people can get a snapshot of those things that you have listed as important characteristics for your next superintendent. Rudy's already been on the trail recruiting, and some of his efforts have paid off. You have 28 candidates, and you've got some fairly high-quality candidates in your pool already. And we know we have, between the two of us, we know there are candidates we've recruited that are high-quality candidates who are not yet, who haven't submitted. So we know your applicant pool will continue to grow, and it will continue to grow with high-quality applications. Under separate cover, remember question 42 on the survey? It's the one where people can give you the open-ended comments, and it also will contain names of individuals that might be recommended. That will come to you under separate cover, so we can glean out any names of individuals. We wouldn't want that to be a part of the entire report until we were able to take the names of people out of that. So that'll come to you under separate cover. You will receive a copy of the names of candidates, and our commitment to you is that we'll contact everyone that's been recommended by anyone through this process. We do pre-screening. May the 13th, 14th, or 15th. We'll determine that date based on our schedules. And your first interview.
Let me just clarify. The pre-screening means this. Is once we get all the applications put together, they're closed. We'll spend an inordinate amount of time going through all the applications. And the advantage that you have is we know most people in the state of California and other states. So we can do verification checks, we'll vet these candidates. And a lot of people look good on paper, but they may not be the real person that's on paper when you actually get to meet them. So we will invite probably anywhere from 10 to 13, 14 people to meet with us in a pre-screening activity where we'll take them through an actual interview, see the whites of their eyes, and see if in fact they're as good as they say they are. And that's what the pre-screening process is. And it won't be here in Santa Barbara. It'll be somewhere where if people have to fly in or drive to, it'll be away from the district because it is a confidential search. Yeah.
And then your schedule for the 25th and 26th of May, that's that 2-hour interview. You may remember we talked about it. All the questions are the same. They'll surface from you. We'll help you if you need. There's pages of them in your binder, and I know you carry that binder with you everywhere. But in tab 3, pages 16 through 25, you'll find all kinds of sample questions. And we'll work with you when we come next time to talk about the slate.
Presenting at the slate of the 21st. We'll need to present the slate to the board.
Thank you. I don't have that down.
Yeah. What will happen after we screen these people, let's say there's 13 or 15 people. We'll come back to you with probably anywhere from 3, 5 to 7 candidates saying, here are the people we believe, with our experience, meet all the characteristics you're looking for, meet your criteria for your district. And we will have reference letters, we will have phone checks, so you can ask us questions about those people, and then you'll decide who you want to interview in the first round. That's when she gets to the 26th and
25th and 26th. That's when he's talking about, we'll come back and present a slate to you. We'll develop the questions for your 25th and 26th interview. On the last day of that interview, if it's the 26th, we come back and debrief with you. We don't sit in on the interviews, and we talked about that earlier. And then the second interview is, we've scheduled it May 27, 31, and June 1. We're not going to talk about that tonight because we have two other processes to get through, but remember, we do the tour and the dinner and the breakfast, so we'll organize all of that when we come back the next time. But just so you have that on your calendar, and you've marked those dates off, and those dates are for you to meet with the candidates for the tour in the afternoon. You'll take a tour, then you'll have another interview. It'll be a tag to the formal interview you had. It'll be another opportunity for you to meet with the candidates. Not necessarily formal in terms of questions, but you've thought about more things you want to know about the candidates' answer to the questions. You've thought of some other things, so it will be very personal in terms of what you ask the candidates. And then we'll have that, the next morning, the candidate will come to you and talk about what would it take to bring them to Santa Barbara. And then time after that, you'll get an intent to sign. You'll get the candidate to commit that they're coming here. We'll do the due diligence. We talked about that in-depth report. We talked about the site visit. And once those three things are all accomplished, then you can sign the contract and have a party and a press release and bring the candidate. We continue throughout the process after each and every opportunity. We start with reference checking, and we continue to go deeper as we bring the fewer candidates to you each time we have deeper reference checking, so that you'll continue to know more about the candidates as we go along. Additional comments?
Bunch of questions. You've been so attentive, I feel like.
Actually, we were, and some of you as well.
Okay, so we've all had a chance to read through the document. I know we have probably our own ideas of what we think the criteria ought to be. So I'm wondering how we want to propose going about this. We just want to sort of go down the table and hear what everybody has to say. Ms. Parker?
Well, I guess, first of all, I have a question, and that is, are we essentially, you have a draft, I would say, of a desired characteristics list. Is that what we're creating now? Is that like a final version of a desired characteristics list?
Here's what we would recommend, that if you're comfortable with what we presented in terms of the desired characteristics, we'll go home and put something together for your review rather than doing it all together. If you're comfortable with the desired characteristics that you've seen, if that represents what you would like to have, we'll crystallize it into a smaller document, but it would contain all of those elements. Typically what we do.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Ms. Lamone?
If we were to approve, approve what's here, is the next step that you bring that little pamphlet that we talked about, the entire profile? Or that's out of the question now? I guess I'm just trying to follow, because I'm looking at page 5 with the desired characteristics, and it's informative, but probably not as informative as I initially thought it might be. So I guess I'm trying to figure out if this is just part of that bigger pamphlet that gets posted, or it's just this.
What gets posted is the executive summary, the desired, the consistent responses. This whole report can go on your website if you desire. The piece that we haven't done is the criteria, which will develop from those consistent themes across all subgroups, which are on page 4, 5. That's the last piece that's to be developed.
Maybe I can jump in here. Ms. Lamone, basically, here's what, this report that you have before you tonight, it's your option whether you want to post this or not, okay? Most people will want to read this executive summary because it gives them a snapshot of what you're looking for. My suggestion to this Board of Education is this, is that you work on those desired characteristics that you folks feel of what you're looking for in a superintendent, keeping in mind all the input you have in this report. And that's what Dr. McKennon's talking about, because what it should have on your link is the Santa Barbara Unified School District desires to have the following candidate have these following characteristics. And that's where you will get your input. Whether you want to have some of these here or not, that's your option. But I would really encourage you to leave the executive summary as is, because you spend a lot of time with your community getting their input, and they sure would like to see that posted somewhere, because that's the transparency piece and what people are really appreciative about. But the board, you're making the selection in this criteria that Dr. McKennon's talking to you about, is I think you need to get together and decide what you would like to have listed as those top priority characteristics, so those people will know what the board is looking for, because you'll be interviewing these people. Does that clarify it for you at all?
It does, thank
Okay,
you.
you bet.
Mr. Herron?
Yeah, just, I need to get a new one.
Sorry.
Is it working? It doesn't sound like it's working, but
Is it on?
it's on, but it doesn't sound like it.
Oh, there it is.
It is on, okay. It is posted on our site already. This entire document is on our site.
Oh, good.
Now, it may not be where you want it to
I
be,
didn't see it today.
but it's on there. If you look under the agenda for tonight's meeting, all 32 pages are there.
Agenda.
So
Okay.
It is there. Now, whether we make a link to it from the homepage or something, that's a different, you know, but I have no problem with it being on at all. But when I said, looked around, I was under the impression that there will be a brochure made, that when somebody says, I want to know more information, then we have a brochure that tells all this and talks about our district, talks about what we're looking for, timing, all that kind of thing. Are you making that?
We don't make brochures because people don't look for brochures anymore. They all go to the website, and that's where they go to get all the information. So if you wanted to put together, you know, and I would really recommend that you have a link, superintendent search, because that's, outsiders will go to that, link up. The calendar should be on there. The executive summary should be on there. All the comments that you put on there on your agenda will be on there. And then if you want to have a descriptor, which we can put together for you,
I don't have a question, you will put that together.
whatever you'd like to put together. But more importantly, you really want to identify those characteristics from the board, what the board is really looking for. They're going to have enough research on your district, and I guarantee you, anybody that's going to be interviewing for you will have spent a day or two in this community going, looking at your schools, going to the supermarkets, talking about your education, and those are the kind of candidates that we'll bring before you. Carolyn, do you have anything to add to that?
I would agree. The profile is what most people look for. And again, we don't do brochures, but what I agree, hopefully on your website, on the homepage, very visible will be superintendent search. And you click on that, and they should see the entire report. The only other thing we recommend that we do is a criteria. If you feel that it would be best from your point of view as a board to develop the criteria so that references and those things that you think are most important, we would welcome that. That's the last part of the process. We put all of this also on our HYA website. And as far as the knowing about the district, we expect every candidate who comes before us to have thoroughly researched this district. We don't go out and tell them, here's what you should know about Santa Barbara. The mark of a high-quality candidate is what he or she has gleaned from all of the things. Now, when we get to the final part of the process, we will ask you to give us some specific information about the district, things such as your budget, the FCMAT study, which actually is available on your website. So you already have a lot of information, but we'll ask you for some specific things to give the candidates to prepare for an interview that might not be readily accessible to them. But everything they need to know about the district, we expect them to do that, to learn about it. And most of the time, they'll come here and spend some time driving around, looking at your schools, deciding for themselves if what they've heard about the district corresponds with what they learned while they're here. But that's the part of our process. The criteria is the last part that we typically do. If there's something more you want, we'd be glad to do that.
Mrs. Deacon?
Thank you. Well, first of all, I'm in complete agreement that we should link the report to, there is already a link on our website for the superintendent search. It's where the survey was. So it would be an easy piece, I'm sure, to take this whole document, which is already available, but make sure that it's highlighted under that one link. So I think that's simple and easy to do. My comment about what we're calling both criteria and desired characteristics is, to me, a lot of these seem a little less specific than I had expected, and the executive summary is more specific. And so I wasn't sure, and maybe I can ask my fellow board members to chime in on this, and I would prefer that you write this. I don't think we need to write that or want to write it, but what I would like to see is the word experience perhaps in here, because I don't see that anywhere, and yet we're asking people to be able to develop a vision. I would like to see the notion of developed a strategic plan, you know, successful experience developing a strategic plan, demonstrated experience, ability to implement reform while building coalitions, those kinds of things, because I think a candidate should know what we consider most important, and as a board, those things might be slightly different than the outcome of the survey, although I see so much overlap, that's probably not really the case. But again, I would just like to see maybe some more specific things identified here. The other things that I noted beyond experience developing a strategic plan would be someone who can balance vision and management and keep focused on the big picture, and that word focus kept coming up a lot in the report. Maybe, and I'm not sure if we want to go there in the desired characteristics, but there was quite a bit of discussion in the report about the need to streamline systems, the need to build more consistency across sites. So again, you know, those are things that I want to see in a candidate, that they can show us that they've done that, they have the ability to do that. Work collaboratively with the teachers union. I think that's probably subsumed in some of this other areas. But also a couple other things that I care about, and maybe this is more appropriate to be in our interview questions, but someone who has demonstrated experience with career technical education, those kinds of things would be important to me, and the ability to streamline bureaucracies. So those are the kinds of things I guess I had an expectation of seeing in what we're calling now desired characteristics.
And again, if I can just respond to that, Ms. Deacon, I think you're spot on some of the things you're talking about, but I think when the questions were posed to the community and the stakeholders about strengths, challenges, I think one thing that I'd love to see you consider doing is a desired characteristics or criteria, whatever you want, is someone with a proven track record in a like or similar district. Because, I mean, you really want to see that they've had success in a district, unique district like this, and a proven track record is experience. So that, I think something like that would answer your question there.
The one other question I had was about the interview timeline. I noticed in the EdCal and Ed Week, when I saw our ad, which looks great, and we had great placement, I thought, in Ed Week, but what are the timelines for interviewing for those districts? Would people be in a situation where they would have to make a decision and give a response to another district before we were finalizing the process? Is there a risk of that?
There's always a risk of something like that. But what we would tell you is the candidate that comes to Santa Barbara is the candidate who belongs here, who matches here. You may have a district of like size, some similarities, but you're unique enough that the person who's applying for this job is applying for this job. We don't see that much overlap with many of the positions because they're not the same. You can be working with two high-performing districts, at least in experience in the Bay Area. The candidate pool is very different. And part of that is a function of the way we recruit, and the other part of it, it's a function of the district and what their needs are, because what they're identifying as their areas are not the same as other districts. But your timing is good. We're in a very good position time-wise.
Okay, other board members? I'm sorry, did you want to ask another question?
No, I'm willing to chime in whenever.
Okay, I was just going to suggest that tackle the desired characteristics and see, what we want to do with, what items or what characteristics we want to list, and then come back and discuss, perhaps a little bit more in detail, how we see this process going forward and what we're going to do with that list once it's been developed. But I anticipate that we probably each have one or two or maybe more items that we'd like to add. I don't know if there's any that anybody wants to remove. But does that seem workable to try to tackle the list first? Ms. Parker, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so, let's see, Mrs. Deacon, you gave us some items that you wanted to add. You wanted to add experience, and particularly experience with developing a strategic plan and working with career technical education. You made a statement about that you wanted language that said something about demonstrated ability, and I'm not sure how we wanted to finish that.
Well, I guess I could put that in front of a
Just about
number of
any
one
of
of
them,
my
yeah.
points, but I did, I guess the notion of balancing vision and management and staying focused on the big picture, and maybe not pictures, may not be the word we end up with, but that general sentiment.
I think I captured a good many of your comments.
Okay.
And so I had balance, vision, and management, focus on the big picture, systems, consistency across sites, work collaboratively with unions, CTE, streamlined bureaucracy. I also had proven, I can't decide what strategic experience with a strategic plan, but so I wrote proven track record and more specifics from the report.
Mm-hmm. I did say implement reform while building coalitions. And again, not all this language has to be in there. The one other element, and maybe other board members want to comment on this, is I would like someone who understands where education is going today and is able, it could be a change agent or someone who has that mindset where they understand in terms of teacher evaluation and, I mean, this is a watershed time in education right now, and I feel like I want someone who's kind of riding that wave, who's willing to be, think outside the box and have an open mind in terms of educational reform issues.
And how would you want to state that as part of the profile? Forward thinking,
Okay, this is what and this is in the comments that I provided to you, but in the general sentiment was someone poised to lead our district in the shift to new approaches, paradigms in education. So, does the rest of the board understand what I'm saying here? The issue I'm trying to get at? Okay.
yeah. Ms. Parker?
I really appreciate everything that you've said, Mrs. Deacon, and I would hope that those would be able to be added into the list of desired characteristics. I appreciated your language, Dr. Castrita, where it was a proven track record in a like or similar district. I thought that was good language. But I don't want to spend we could spend 6 hours wordsmithing this. I like your list of desired characteristics, but the list is not written in in parallel language, and it needs work in terms of coming, forward as something that we would put on any sort of profile on our website. And Mrs. Deacon, I highly appreciate your editing, and I know that you would be able to weigh in on this well too. There are a couple of things that I would like to say that I want to be sure that we articulate first, and that is putting first on the list, because it's down here, currently it's like the fourth bullet about the vision and mission of the district. I do think of everything, that that's probably important, that that be number one on our list, given how every stakeholder group has felt about that. I don't think we necessarily need to number anything, but just that it is our first bullet, if that's the way it goes. And the way I had worded it as I was playing with it, but again, I don't want to wordsmith tonight, was can articulate the vision and mission of the district and provide leadership toward achieving the district's goals. But something along those lines. And there are a couple of things where I'm feeling like culturally sensitive, preferably bilingual and or bicultural. I see bilingual or bicultural as a huge plus, but I want to be sure that we get candidates that are the best quality no matter what language they speak. And so I want to be sure that doesn't become a barrier. Political savvy. I don't know that I feel that it's necessary to list that in our list of desired characteristics, because I do think understanding of the community's culture is important. I think that it almost goes without saying that you have to be politically savvy. And so those are ones that and we'll reach out to the Latino community actively. I think that's really important, but I want to be sure it's balanced, because it really should be all parent groups. So I don't know if that needs to be called out separately or if it should be all parents. I'm not sure.
Maybe
Including, yeah, that might be a good way to put it. So those are just my initial thoughts on it.
Can I just clarify, for political savvy and understanding of the community's culture, did you suggest just eliminating the political savvy and keeping understanding?
Yes.
Okay.
Although, again, I wouldn't want it listed as understanding of the community's cultures. I would want it worded differently than that, just so that everything lined up and matched and was grammatically correct.
And so we want so one of the things we really want is parallel structure. And so however we say that, however we structure that. But we want to keep that concept. Okay. Ms. Limon, did you have?
You know, I think that some of my suggestions are word kind of stuff, so I'm not sure this is the place there. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, but did you have any concerns about either maintaining ones that have been suggested for removal, or adding any additional ones, or not adding ones that have been does anybody question any of the ones that have been suggested for adding?
I don't think that I would take any of them away. I think I would reword some of them to be a little bit more comprehensive, but yeah.
Okay, so what about Ms. Parker's suggestion that we'll reach out to Latino community, be more inclusive?
So if it said something has experience working with all parent groups, or all constituents, including underrepresented communities, because I also think it's beyond Latinos.
Great.
Okay. I'm just gonna, because I know that the two of you are trying to capture what we're saying so that you know how to rewrite this. I want to respond to that while we're on it, because I actually think that for the most part, especially looking at the comments, the community mostly felt heard and involved, and many of the parents identified parental involvement and community involvement as a strength, and it was only the Latino community that identified that they felt marginalized from the district. And so I would prefer to keep it specifically saying that we want someone who's going to actively reach out to the Latino community, because that's the segment that indicated that they don't feel connected to the district, or and in fact indicated that they sometimes feel sort of isolated and neglected. So certainly I kind of feel somewhat of what you were saying, Ms. Parker, that it sort of goes without saying that a superintendent is going to interact with the district and with the community in which the district resides. So if we're looking at specific characteristics that we want, I really do want someone who's going to take that extra step to work with the portions of the community that feel left out right now.
My concern with that is just that I'm not certain that every group either was there or articulated that, because I can think of other groups that we've had before the board that would say that they didn't have the connection. You know, for example, we could have parents here saying that we would like them to reach out specifically to the special ed community, if you see what I'm saying. I mean, in that, yeah.
I understand what you're saying, and I'm not sure how to resolve this, because I also feel that when we're talking about the Latino community, we're talking about the majority of our students. It's not a small subset. It's a major, significant number of the students in our district. So, and if the parents of those students are feeling marginalized, to me that seems like a significant thing that we ought to be addressing. So I understand, though, the sensitivity of how we would word it in a profile, but I don't want it to get buried in do all these things and include the Latino community. I really want it to be a significant focus. So for whatever, I don't know how that helps you, but.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Herron?
I know inherently, we all know that. I'm not sure the survey really shows that. The comment of many parents on bottom page 4 says many Latino parents feel their voices are not heard. We only had 10 parents in the focus group. So I'm not sure the survey shows that. I think we probably know it, and I have no problem including it. But I would not like to get out that the survey shows it, because I don't believe it did. I don't see, again, special ed, I don't see in the desired characteristics, I don't see a special ed background mentioned in this. And I think that's vitally important that we include something about special ed. To me, the systems and organization, accountability, teacher evaluation, somehow needs to be put into this. Political savvy needs to be taken out. I think that's a different function. We don't want a politician, or even any semblance of a politician coming in. But I understood you to say originally you're going to come back with, was it criteria or profile?
Criteria.
Criteria. Is that what we're talking about here?
That is.
Okay, so you will come back with a cleaned up version of this based upon the survey, focus groups, what you hear here, and you'll come back with something nice and well-written that we can focus on?
We'll do our very best, and one of the things that might be helpful as you are thinking, and maybe later when you walk away from this, you're going to say, you know what, I really want this, or I should have said that, so perhaps you could send us your thoughts. So as we try to make this a document that reflects what you, as the board, want, that would be very helpful. We're taking notes, and obviously this, I'm sure, will go back and forth a few times as we try to make it a dynamic document here. So that would be helpful to us, I think.
Yes, Stephen?
I have one suggestion, because I also feel the need to make sure we have someone who would be good at engaging the Latino community, because we know that's an important function. Maybe somehow that could be combined with the culturally sensitive, preferably bilingual or bicultural item. And then maybe we also have a bullet point that, you know, is something about someone who can serve all segments of, you know, the school population, the community, equally adept and comfortable with parent constituents representing a variety of groups, or something like that. And just while we're on that one piece on the desired characteristics, part of the executive summary on page 3, the last sentence of that first paragraph, it says, pertaining to the needs of a diverse student body, including special education and high-achieving student populations. I would like to add English learners in that sentence. So it would say, pertaining to the needs of a diverse student body, including English learners, special education, high-achieving student populations. Or maybe it would be English learner populations. Anyway, we'll get the grammar on that. But I like your idea of all of us emailing you our comments so that you can take those and work with those.
You know, I want to come back to Mrs. Parker's comment about you can sit here as a board, and we've done this before, where you could spend another hour or two trying to formalize that. I think the best process for this is to, because I think we'll add that English language learner to that segment there. You're absolutely right, Mr. Herron, that special ed was extremely vocal. Matter of fact, the majority of parents we had at San Marcos were special ed parents, and that should be noted somewhere. But again, I want to be able to frame the issue for you again, okay? This executive summary will be read by all the candidates, guaranteed. And they're going to get a flavor for special ed, diversity, culturally sensitive, bilingual would be an asset, the community engagement, all the things that you have seen in the executive summary. What we're trying to do tonight with this last portion is come up with the board's criteria that you think are the most important, and you've given us some great feedback tonight. As Dr. McKinnon has mentioned, the best way to do this evening is for you to email us your thoughts. Let us come back and consolidate those thoughts into some grammatically good phrases that you can have. I would love to see you have a standalone section. The board is looking for a dynamic leader that possesses the following characteristics. Bing, 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 bing. Those are the things that you are looking for, that they will immediately resonate to. And then we can come back and get that to you, and then you can say, yes, I agree, I don't agree, I want this out, and whatever. That way, I think you'll be moving forward. But I would really encourage you to move forward on this executive summary, get it up, and then this will be another section that will be added on there. As long as you give us the information, we can digest it, get it back to the board liaison, or get it back to Mimi, or get it back to all of you individually and react to it, and then we'll go from there. Does that sound fair?
I'd like to ask a question then. Would the executive, when you say the executive summary, would that include this entire bit, or is it just the first 3 pages?
I think the direction we heard tonight, that Mr. Herron has already put it out on a board agenda with all the comments. If that's what you want to do, where it says superintendent's link, that will be one of the links, executive summary, and have everything on there that you have in front of you tonight. But I'm looking for and suggesting to you for your consideration is to have a section on there that is just from the board. The Board of Education, Santa Barbara Unified, is looking for a dynamic leader that possesses the following characteristics. That's where your comments will be given to us. We'll get it back to you, and then you can put that on the link. You've got plenty of time to do that.
I guess what I'm a little bit questioning then is what we're looking at on page 5 is titled desired characteristics. And so I don't want that, because it's already on our website in the form of an agenda attachment, but we don't necessarily have it as a link to the superintendent search. I don't want it to be misconstrued as that is what we have decided the desired characteristics are before we actually go through this finalization process.
We normally call it, the criteria is the Board of Trustees of the Santa Barbara seeks the superintendent, and you list those qualities and characteristics, and you also look at the expectations. That's why it's called the criteria, and it's the board's criteria. So that's what you're generating. This represents what we've heard from all of the stakeholders. This now is your document. It reflects what you are looking for in this new superintendent.
Right, but
I agree with you. The title needs to be different.
exactly, that's what I was going to say, because I think this ought to go forward, as I think Dr. Castridas.
It's Castrita. If you just take the U out, it's really easy to pronounce. Castrita, right?
Thank you. I think, as you pointed out, it's important to have the community's voice represented. And so that, but I don't want them to be confused. I don't want them to be reading this and see desired characteristics as the heading and assume that that means it's the board's desired. So anyways, I think just as you said consistent strengths, if you said consistent challenges, issues, and concerns, consistent desired characteristics, or something like that to indicate that these were what came out of the discussions, not necessarily what we have adopted.
That's why you want a separate link that says the Board of Education is desiring these following characteristics.
Right, I agree.
That'd be a separate-
I agree.
This is part of the report. So it's just information for those that are applying. But more importantly is they will focus on what Mr. Herron wants, what Mrs. Limon wants, what Mrs. Parker wants, Mrs. Deacon wants, and what Mrs. Cordero wants.
Okay.
That's why I think you need to have that special of what you're looking for.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Limon and then Ms. Parker?
I guess I want to make sure that I'm understanding this right. The executive summary are pages 1 through 32 or 1 through 10? Is this the executive summary, or are we talking about a portion of this? Just so I'm clear on.
This
what we're
entire document is
So
called
1
the
through 32.
Leadership Profile Report. The executive summary is pages 1 through 3, and that each of the following components has its own title.
So, my question is, so if we're going to have the whole thing as a link that we can look at on the superintendent search page, that we will get a copy of it that has the names changed, so it becomes clear that it's consistent desired characteristics from the survey results instead of just desired characteristics. I'm also wondering if we could, on the link could be called survey results, leadership profile report, HYA leadership profile report. So again, it's clear that this is the results of the survey, and not anything taken from board action. But yeah, I think it would be great to go ahead and get that up, and then, we can finalize the language on our profile.
Okay, Mr. Herron?
One more thing I mentioned, and I think Mrs. Parker mentioned this. On the bullet, it says, culturally sensitive, preferably bilingual. Usually the phrase I like much better, you said it will be an asset. Preferably, I don't, almost sounds like the unanimous that we have to like that. And if we're not bilingual, like also from the box. So the word preferably sort of bothers me a little bit, but if it would be an asset, then that just, in your resume, that's going to count a little bit more. But it's not a breaking point. So I'd like to see that word change. That's just me, though.
Actually, yes.
Well, I prefer that they be bilingual.
I'm okay with preferred as well. I mean, that's how a lot of jobs are given free, and I don't think it was
Right. I mean, preference just says we're going to prefer this. All things being equal, we would prefer this. I think it's stronger than just will be an asset.
As I said before, I just want to be careful that it's not a barrier for people that are extremely high quality, that it's not a barrier for them to apply, because obviously the most important thing is to have the best person in the job. And I would prefer it to be somebody that's bilingual and bicultural too. It may be that it's not, it just depends on our applicant pool, but I want to be sure that we have a broad applicant pool.
Can I ask you what your experience would be? I mean, if candidates saw this, would someone who's not bilingual apply? I mean, would they feel that they were at a disadvantage for not being?
My experience is this, Mrs. Deacon, this will not be a deterrent from anybody applying at Santa Barbara. What they're going to look for is they're going to carefully read this executive summary, and they're going to see special ed issues. They're going to see instructional issues, they're going to see organizational issues, they're going to see communication issues, they're going to see organizational structure issues, they're going to say, do I have the tools to be able to pull this off in Santa Barbara? If I do, I'm going to apply. I may not be bilingual, that's okay, but I'll put my hat in the ring to see how I compete for this position. The beauty of this process is all 5 of you get to select who you want. We don't, okay? You select the best qualified person that you believe is going to lead this district to the next level, whether they have a bilingual background or not, whether they can engage the community or not, whether they will be receptive to all the foundations you have here. Again, I come back to the comment that I made. They should have a proven track record of the success in a similar like district. And that will be part of our criteria when we begin to screen. I tell you that right now. I interviewed somebody from out of state on Friday of last week that is going to be dynamite if he applies, because he's got everything that you're looking for that I've seen in this report and the 2 days that I've spent here. You know, all the character, whether he applies or not, I do not know. I think he will, especially when I call him back tonight on my way home or tomorrow morning. But the issue at hand is, don't let that be a deterrent for you. Put what you believe is going to be your best foot forward. I hear some of the boards saying, I would prefer them being bilingual. I think ACID is a good situation. The bottom line is, the person's going to have to be able to have the qualities that are going to be able to engage all stakeholders in this community, be able to reach out to the Santa Barbara community, the San Marcos community, the higher end community, those people that are coming from Montecito, whatever. You will determine that. And guess how you'll find out if they can do that? When you begin to structure your questions, and you'll be able to tell right away whether they have the experience in collective bargaining, instructional leadership, leadership in general, a communicator, is visible, has an articulate way of communicating to people. You will be able to see that. I mean, you're not going to get somebody who's no experience whatsoever, and we're going to put them before you and saying, God, I hope he works out or she works out. It's not going to happen that way. This district is too critical. 2 things that you really have going for you here. You have a wonderfully beautiful community. You really do. This is a place where people want to come to, okay? Secondly, the biggest challenge you're going to have is having the person be able to find real estate to live in Santa Barbara or close by. And the third issue is going to be, are you going to find someone that's going to meet the needs of what you 5 people are looking for, that's going to match what all these fine people contributed to in this report about their voices being heard. And their voices being heard because you're talking about all these issues that have been before you tonight, which is terrific. It's a matter of us bringing the quality candidates that have all these components for you.
Thank you.
I don't, Mrs. Lamone, I don't want you to get hung up on the first 5 pages, 6 pages, whatever. That's just information. What's important for the board is the desired characteristics you're going to send us. That's what that candidate will look at. What is the board looking for? And that's what you're going to hopefully send us. We'll refine it, get it back to you, and then we'll have a sign-off on that thing. Okay.
Can I just say, actually,
Yes.
that's reassuring, because I think we need to be reminded that people that are smart and are good superintendents can take this document and all the other information that they're going to hopefully gather on their own, and in a way that's a self-selecting group, and so it's going to be a group that's going to align with what our needs are. I forgot to mention one thing, and Sal Garenia would be upset with me if I didn't mention this, because I told him that I would be sure and note that someone with experience in public-private partnerships and working with philanthropic groups I think would be a key asset as well. And he wanted me to share that with everyone, so I'll make sure that I do that.
Okay. Mr. Aaron?
I guess I want your assurance that if you're going to vet this down to 10 or 13, that we don't lose sight of the most important, the most qualified people applying, and don't have arbitrary ways to eliminate them because they don't meet any one of these criteria. Because you're going to tell us 10 or 14. If you get down to the 13 and 14, then we'll qualify, but you get 15 to 16 because of some of the reasons. And I just want you to be careful of how you choose those 10 or 13 people.
You've actually identified something that we do frequently. We'll interview probably 10 to 15, that's our usual number. But there may be in our pool some unique candidates who will not fit all of the characteristics of the things we've identified. But we think they may be something of interest to you, so we'll bring them to you so you can decide. These may be non-traditional candidates or candidates that don't have all of the skill set, but we believe, based on what we know about you and the district, we'd like you to take a look at them. So we may give you a second tier in terms of candidates that are not a perfect match, but we've had it happen. You meet this candidate, you can see how well they would work in your district, and voila, you might wind up hiring that person. So absolutely, you're right. There'll be some people who are not a perfect fit, but they'll work, and we'll bring them to you.
I can't give you an assurance, but I can tell you this. We will do our darndest to bring the top quality people before you. And that's important to me. It's important to the community. It's important to the students in this district. And we will do our darndest to make sure that that happens. I just want to assure the board that during this process, we do a lot of vetting, because what happens many times is, and you as the board will do this, I'm just telling you, you'll do it. Once you get the first round of candidates, we say, well, we want to interview these 5, 6, whatever it is, you will blog these people. You're going to do that. And you will, not blog them, Google them. You will Google them, and you will see all the warts that they have. So one of the last questions, the first question we ask is, tell me, why are you applying in Santa Barbara, and what do you know about Santa Barbara Unified? If they come in and say, well, you know, it's a nice place to live, that's a real telling question. And the last question we ask them is there anything in your background, anything we need to know that will embarrass the Board of Trustees if in fact we bring you before them? Keeping in mind that we've already done background checks on these folks. So, I mean, we will do our darndest, Mr. Herron.
Mr. Herron, I was just going to say that.
I'm sorry, I mean, I'm just, you know, yeah. Right. And I understand that. I'm sorry.
What stage will you bring back to us the salary benefit survey of what you found the salary might be for this position?
Each one of our applicants, you will see their salaries, what they're making now currently.
We can bring that to you at any stage. He's asked for salary information statewide as well as perhaps regionally. Yeah, so we're compiling some of that now. Perhaps when we do the slate presentation, that might be a place for it. When we bring back to you the candidates that we're suggesting you interview, that might be the place for it.
Great, thank you. Ms. Parker?
One other quick question. Obviously, there are a lot of districts in California that have high English learner populations and where it would be a huge plus to have a superintendent that is bilingual and bicultural. In your experience over the past few years, let's say, what percentage of the candidates are you seeing that are bilingual?
I wouldn't give a percentage, but what I will say, and Ms. Deacon pointed it out, these are self-selecting. When they look at the population, those who want to apply for Santa Barbara will say to themselves, am I a match? And one of those pieces will be perhaps bilingual, bicultural, and we've said in our report it would be an asset. And so there will be people who will apply because they believe that they have all the characteristics as well. So if this district had a predominance in terms of a very large number of students that were Latino, we would expect to see a higher pool in terms of candidates coming bilingual, bicultural. This one will probably be a mix. That would be my guess. And Rudy?
My experience is that people will look at your district and decide for themselves, again, whether they can come in here and work with you, 5 members of the board. It's important. And secondly, whether they have the skill sets to make sure that they're successful in this district. They may be bilingual, they may be not be bilingual. They may be female, they may be male. They may be of a different gender, whatever it may be. But our job is to find the best quality people that match all the characteristics you're looking for out there. And I don't see it, in my experience, that has been a hindrance, Mrs. Parker. Good people will rise to the top, and if they want to come and be part of this community and be part of the leadership, they will make every effort to enhance their prowess to you 5 board members.
Okay. So have we given you pretty much what you need for tonight? Is my first question. I'm exhausted. Okay. Well, then we did our job. And secondly, I know that you have asked us to send you some of our comments. I was wondering if there was a possibility that we could see a very sort of quick little turnaround on what we've given you tonight so far, and then send any additions that we think may have not been captured, rather than just inundating you with stuff that you already have.
We could do that. We could do a start, we'll give you what we've heard from you, put it in a format,
Right.
and then send it back to you, and then maybe you then can wordsmith. If you've got something right now that we want to get that to you, that we'd like it in the first draft, send it to us now.
Okay.
But we'll start something right away and get back to you maybe in a couple of days.
Okay, to me that sounds good, because I think we've pretty much all stated the things that we would like to see included. And so if they're already there, then we don't need to go through that again, and we can just check and make sure that you were able to capture all of what we at least thought we were saying. So, Ms. Egan?
So just so we're clear on where we're going in terms of posting this report online, there was at least one change in the executive summary, and then I heard a request to change the title of desired characteristics. Did you? I think. So we want to make sure that Mimi gets this revised total package so that she can go ahead and put it online.
May I make a suggestion based on the way these reports appear? What we're doing now is the criteria, and it will be listed as a criteria for the board. The desired characteristics is a part of what the community gave us, and so to keep these two things separate, this now is the document from the board, so changing the title of desired characteristics, this comes right off of the interviews that we conducted with people. If I'm understanding you, I'd like to be sure that we are calling what we're doing now the criteria from the board. And you'll see it when we come back to you, you'll see it has a little bit of a format, and it is distinctly from the board now.
Oh, I agree, and I would advocate that we even maybe make that a separate link from this report under the superintendent search piece on the page. But maybe, I think I heard Mrs. Parker say that we might want to at least, was it more, change this so that didn't you have some other wording for that?
I'm sorry, I just thought that because at the beginning of that on page 4, it had been identified as consistent strengths, which indicates to me that it's saying these were consistent throughout the groups.
From the profile meeting.
Right.
Correct.
And then if we could add consistent challenges, if we could just add consistent to these, keep that going so that it's clear that what we're saying is these were the commonalities from all the different groups.
So it now says Santa Barbara School Districts, consistent themes from profile meetings, consistent strengths, challenges, desired characters. You'd like each of these headings to have that repeated, that this comes from the,
Well, I just like each of the headings to have the word consistent.
oh, I see.
Yeah.
All right, yes.
And that makes it clear that it's all from the survey, I think.
Yeah.
Thanks, that's an easy one. In fact, I gave Mimi a copy that she can add, so she doesn't have to wait for us. She can just add the word consistent. Yeah.
Okay, so you will communicate that to her?
I will.
Thank you, because
But she can do
we
that
don't have any
tomorrow.
staff here right now, so I just want to make sure we all know who's
She'll
doing what.
probably be on the phone first thing asking me what needs to be done. She's just been wonderful to work with.
She is wonderful. Okay, so we've given you that. We will get it back in a couple of days, you said, in a revised format, so we can then send back any additional feedback that we have. And then, are there any other steps that we need to clarify that the board members?
But you
Okay.
are going to send us your thoughts, and you can do that tonight when you get home on your computer. Send it to us, or get it to Mimi and get it so we can start working on that and putting together that within the next couple days.
Okay,
Yeah.
yes, yes, we believe that, based on the notes that you took tonight, you can start, okay, so I think with that, we have probably come to the end of our meeting. We're not used to having a meeting that ends at 7:20. So our next regular board meeting is Tuesday, April 12th, and that one won't end at 7:20. So we'll take advantage of it tonight, and we will adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much for being here.